All right. I guess a lot of you are asking why are we doing a strategic Bitcoin reserve today? I think the truth is it should have been done a long time ago. Over the past decade or so, the federal government has accumulated something like 400,000 Bitcoin through civil or criminal asset forfeitures or seizures. Unfortunately, we did not have a long-term strategy for maximizing the value of this asset as a country. And so roughly half that Bitcoin was sold for something like $370 million. Today, that would be worth over $17 billion if we had held it. So now the question is, what do we do with the rest of it? We think the number's around 200,000 Bitcoin. We think this is a very strategic asset. We think it should be held long-term for the value of the country and to maximize the value of this asset for taxpayers. So that's what we're doing. Sure, so the reserve is capitalized with existing Bitcoin that the government already owns on its balance sheet. We don't have a plan to buy more, except that the executive order provides that if the Secretary of the Treasury or the Secretary of Commerce can come up with a budget-neutral way to acquire more, then they are authorized, they don't have to, but they're authorized to develop those strategies. I think it's important to say that this reserve does not cost taxpayers a dime. We already own this Bitcoin, and like I said, we're only allowed to buy more if it doesn't add to the deficit or the debt or cost taxpayers anything. So the objective of the summit today is to take in feedback and advice from the industry. We promised to do that during the campaign. That's the primary focus of today's summit, is to hear from industry leaders, some of the foremost thinkers in the space. I think it's safe to say that the administration wants to end the war on crypto. We've promised to do that. We want to end Operation Choke Point 2.0, which unfairly persecuted and prosecuted founders just for starting crypto companies. They were often debanked, not just their companies, but them personally. We think that's very unfair. These people were treated like criminals without ever having been convicted in a court of law of anything. That really needs to stop. That was a form of lawfare against this cutting-edge technology. We're going to stop that. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the Secretary of the Treasury to manage the digital asset portfolio, the stockpile, in the most prudent way forward. What the executive order provides is that the Secretary of the Treasury should exercise responsible stewardship. But ultimately, it'll be up to the Secretary of the Treasury and then also the Secretary of Commerce to determine if there's budget-neutral ways of adding to our Bitcoin reserve. But we have not had conversations about what those might be yet. So we want there to be clarity, there needs to be guidelines, there needs to be protections for consumers, but most of all, there needs to be a clear legal framework that everyone knows how to abide by. And I think the industry will do its part if we do our part. If we make the rules clear to them, I think they will abide. And if they still break the rules, and I'm talking about bad actors, not the good ones, then they'll be punished. There should be punishments for bad actors. But I think there's many more good actors than bad actors, and they need to be enabled. The innovation needs to be enabled. What we want to do is make sure that with the remaining Bitcoin that we have, we think that number is around 200,000 pending an audit. We want to make sure we get the most long-term value for the American people. And we think that the best way to preserve that value is to store these Bitcoin for the long term. Bitcoin has often been called digital gold. And what we're doing with the reserve is effectively creating a digital Fort Knox to safeguard that digital gold. So we believe this is a valuable asset that we should store for the American public and preserve that value for the long term.
How was your 1 o'clock?
Not as